Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Firefighters Chalkboard. This is Uncle Wayne, and tonight we have got Chris Tennyson on here with us tonight. Chris, how are you doing?
Doing great. Appreciate you allowing me to be on here.
Absolutely, man. The pleasure is mine. I've been trying to do this long enough. I think we've been fishing with a day since January, so I'm glad that we can finally make it happen. So to start off with, just let's tell everybody about Chris.
Uh, Chris Tennyson. I'm the Deputy Chief of Training for Somerville Fire and Rescue. We say we're the town of Somerville, but we're a city. We just aren't
That's a big town.
identifying as a city yet. Yeah, we're there. I've been there about 9 years now, going on 9 years in June. I hit my time to punch my ticket as well already, and I'm even thinking about when I'm leaving. I'm not going to do it anytime soon. So, unfortunately, SFR stuck with me for at least a good 8 to 10 more years, provided my body holds up.
I can relate to that. I was kind of thinking to myself, and then the grandbaby started coming. So yeah, the retirement didn't because my wife has found out what baby clothes is and buying them online. So I'm working more.
Oh yeah,
So Chief, you've got a pretty big background as far as training and stuff. So I mean, Georgia smoke diver, you've done the flames, everything else, and you've done smoke diver in more than one place, right?
I have. I've done Tennessee smoke diver as well, and outside of smoke diver, North Carolina breathing equipment school, ridden under fire the week long and the 8 hour day one. I just love going to that stuff. It's just amazing what you learn about yourself.
Yeah, I was about to say because everybody I've talked to that's been through it is it's not about what you do, is learning who you really are.
hmm They
So
are very good at peeling all the layers off, all the, as we like to call it, the fake facade of who you portray yourself to be, and everything gets peeled back to the core of who you are and what you're made of, and that's what I love about it.
good deal. So remember Charleston Metro Fools? Y'all do a lot of training with Charleston Metro. Y'all have a conference there every year, things like that, and doing a lot of repurposing, a lot of new moving parts and stuff moving around with the fools there.
There's a
Um,
ton. Chris Gay was, I believe, I can't remember what we were called before, to be honest with you. It was a different Fools chapter. I wasn't very familiar with the Fools itself. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm looking at rebranding the chapter, getting it going again. Would you be interested in being my VP?" And we take this thing and run with it. And this was several years ago. It's been 5 or 6 years now that we've had Charleston Metro up and running. And I said, absolutely, I'd be honored, but I don't have a leather helmet. And he just kind of laughed. He said, you don't have to have a leather helmet to be part of the Fraternal Order of Leather. I was like, oh, okay, just letting you know. I've never owned a leather helmet. I don't know, I just didn't know the ins and outs. And so he took me in, kind of showed us the ropes. We rewrote our bylaws and got the chapter kind of back up and going again. And the chapter that it was before did phenomenal. I mean, they gave us a solid foundation, and we just kind of took it and built upon it and created something pretty special. Unfortunately, as time evolves and positions change within the organizations and there's more demand on us with family and everything else, we just said, hey, we got two options. We can either keep forcing the chapter to happen and let this ship sink, or we can pass the baton and give it to some of the younger, eager individuals that can really do something special with it and really maintain what we've been trying to build. And so we both made the decision to step away, and we're still active members in the chapter, but we are just not in the e-board. We're more of an advisor role, kind of the so-called OG role, if you will. And
the elder position.
yeah, and we like it. We like it. It's been fun. It's been great seeing with the new people taking over the reins. AD Knapp he was our president for a long time, and he also stepped down because his roles have increased at Somerville. I'm pulling him away too much, but we've got some awesome individuals from several departments. We got good representation in the e-board from Charleston Fire Department, Dorchester County Fire, and things like that. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see what happens.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and go out to say it for everybody that is listening on Spotify and stuff that's not watching on YouTube or looking at the Facebook link. This man has got my utmost respect because he is rocking a "I love my hot wife" shirt. I mean, he's getting brownie points right now, and he just doesn't even know it. Uh, I love it.
It's I rock it. Even if I present, this is the T-shirt I'm wearing.
I love it. So, just trying to take care of a little bit of my housekeeping stuff and with us getting started with all this, after Chris has introduced himself, this podcast is being brought to you by the energy drink. It is great. Pineapple's the best flavor out of all of them. I don't care. Cherry's a good strong second, but pineapple's my go-to. 10 calories, no sugar, no crash, no jitters. It is amazing. I live off of this stuff. Get online, go to the energy drink, and I think if you go to Spray Nine is your key, you'll get a couple bucks off of it, and we'll help Tim McCluskey actually try to sell some of these things. So starting off with it, FDIC just finished up. I mean, we're looking at Monday. It finished 2 days ago. Phenomenal show from what I could see. I'm still trying to get links and stuff from a lot of the stuff that come from the health and wellness stage I was wanting to watch, and some of it's actually now starting to post. Seeing Michael Goldstein and Chris Scott and a bunch of those guys up there with Steph White and Billy Hucks and everybody and Bobby Drake, and they were just phenomenal. A lot of the topics they brought up and everything else, but it all started with the opening ceremony, and opening ceremonies hit hard this year. Chief Rhodes once again knocked it out of the park, and his speech. I mean, it pulled on the heartstrings big time with me. He last year he was talking about you know not really rebelling but doing what was right, and he stepped it up more this year, and actually he praised the company officers this year, and the importance of them and what they bring to the table and how important of a role it is and everything. And I would love to get your thoughts on Chief Rhodes' speech.
And I wish I saw it in person. I do want to quickly apologize. I'm getting over being sick, so I'm a little nasally sounding. So if I cough or anything, I apologize. I'm doing my best to hang tight, sucking down cough drops. So Chief Rhodes, he's just a phenomenal human being. Just talking to him in person too, you pick up so much knowledge in just a brief conversation with that man. But I was fortunate enough to catch his stuff online. I tried to keep up with what was going on. Usually we're up there, we're helping out with some classes. I'm usually throwing pallets on fire, just doing something behind the scenes and hanging out with the fellas. But this year I didn't go. I didn't attend, but I'll be hopefully back next year, and we'll be right back at it. But his speech resonated with me, especially in our situation in my organization, and I can only speak to my organization, but we are caught in a very, very interesting time in our organization because of the fact I've already said we're growing exponentially. We are caught between the kind of old town of Somerville ways and all the progression that we're trying to kick off and enforce. And part of the progression that we're actually trying to kick off is autonomy. Allowing company officers to be company officers, right? Also with the understanding that I truly think that maybe we haven't quite done our jobs as chiefs to its full potential in sitting down our potential company officers and explaining to them the seriousness, the responsibility, and the weight that we're putting on them. Because I feel like that's important before they take that, right? I don't want someone to take that badge or those bugles just for the pay raise, just so they don't have to move around a lot from different firehouses, or just because a convenient spot opened up. There's so many different aspects of taking a promotion, right? I want that company officer to take that promotion with the understanding that I am going to hold you accountable for you and your people.
Yes.
You need to set the tone. You're not going to have a great day every day, and that's to be understood. But what we can have happen is patterns. Those patterns of behavior then become the lifeline of what happens at that firehouse on that shift. That then becomes the culture, and that then becomes what we've accepted. So as a battalion chief, as an ops chief, and as a fire chief, we have to ensure that, yes, we're going to hit those ruts. We're going to fully support you to build yourself up and get out of those ruts, but you have to get out of them. Because if not, that train's going to leave and you're not going to be on it, and we've got to get someone in there that can uphold the standard and the seriousness of what I'm asking you to do as an officer.
I can relate to that, Chief, because every one of us that are in a company officer role. I mean, I'm not a company officer anymore. I'm at the training division now, but I rode the right seat for a long time. But we've had tons and tons of classes on strategies, tactics, operations, and we didn't never truly have the first class on how to take care of Tom when Tom has a bad day in the firehouse. And a lot of places we're working on trying to come up with ideas on ways to groom them for the people problems because they got the fires down pat. We everybody that goes into a promotional thing, they have their operation scenario, then they'll have their personnel thing. But okay, there is more to Tom showing up late 2 days in a row. How are you going to handle Tom? We need to, how do you truly take care of your people? How do you, and you know, the company officer a lot of times says it the best: love them, let them know you care. And it's hard for a crew to follow you if they don't think you've got buy-in on them. And and I think that's what you're trying to say a lot of times, because if that company officer truly cares about his people as people and what their progression in their career and what they're going to do in the service they provide, they'll go back and forth to hell for that guy and do whatever he's asking for the company to take care of.
Absolutely. And we have to foster that empowerment for them, though. This is a huge transition for us as Somerville because, for the most part, a lot of the individuals that have been around for a while, I mean, they were asking permission to do everything. They weren't given full autonomy to make decisions and have the opportunity to mess up, right? And we even still catch ourselves. There's very recent events that have happened where, a battalion chief will make a decision about a situation, and then an ops chief and the fire chief get involved, and it's made its way all the way to the top. And then that initial decision that was made by the battalion chief, not on purpose, but it gets overrun because they don't agree with the decision made by the battalion chief, right? Where the way that all that stuff should play out is, okay, I'm shaking my head, yes, I'm in agreement. I'm going to back my battalion chief 110% to that firefighter, whatever that decision is. And then behind a closed door, me and that battalion chief are going to have a conversation and say, look, all right, let's sit down and think about how this went down. How could this have went better? What could you have done to resolve that situation in a different way? Here's where my thoughts are. How about the next time we encounter this, why don't you try this method instead of this? But instead, we're kind of caught up in our own way where we're so used to doing that decision making. It's actually kind of built in our culture where if somebody doesn't like an answer given by a superior officer, they can keep going all the way up to the fire chief, right? I don't need the fire chief worrying about that.
No.
I need my fire chief worrying about fire chief things, right? I need my fire chief fighting for money, personnel, equipment, stations, right? My fire chief needs to be solely focused on that. The caveat to that is my fire chief needs to be 100% informed on those decisions being made. But as a BC, when I'm passing that information up, here's the decision I made. I'm keeping you informed of what happened. I'm keeping that at the lowest level possible, right? But inevitably, we're just so caught up in how we normally do things at Somerville, we are not developing our chiefs and our captains because they need to make those mistakes and those decisions sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, sometimes it's not going to be a great decision. And I'm not saying, obviously, they don't have the power to directly fire anybody. They can recommend it and give those justifications and pass it up, and it does have to get final approval. Excuse me. But at the lowest level possible, we need to allow them to make those decisions and guide them through them, because I'm not going to create good chief level officers and good company officers if every time what I end up doing by accident is overstepping and taking over the decision-making process for them. It's not good. If it's completely left field, hey, we got to go back and rehash things. But if it's not a high risk thing and we're not talking about a termination or a demotion yet, let the chiefs make the decisions and work through the problems themselves.
But then what you do in that process is that is pure mentorship in a nutshell, right there.
Right.
Um, Verbatim. I mean, you're okay. Go through your thought process. Okay, this didn't. It worked, but not exactly the way we want. So you actually have a chance to groom them and let them have that decision making process and things like that. And that's one of the big topics we talk about a lot of times. Me and you talked about it in Columbia, and it's about how do we get mentorship where it is more of a common thing. When we come through the fire service, it was common for the old guys to pass on to you and everything else, and is
Yeah.
we're trying to get that culture to get back going, and it's hard because a lot of times places all over the country are fighting the same problems we're fighting on the coast. A lot of your company officers have less than 5 years on the job. And it's nothing to do more with the amount of explosive growth we've had. We've blown up. Somerville's blowed up. Charleston's blowed up. Everywhere up and down the coast because look at how many people come in, are moving in. I mean, I was in Raleigh this past weekend, and I passed a billboard that said 154 families or 154 people move to Charlotte every day. I'm like, now I don't know if
Yeah.
that's right or not. I believe it. It was on a billboard, whatever. But as if that much growth is coming to Charlotte, that much growth getting close to Charleston, Columbia, Myrtle Beach, everywhere else. I mean, and up and down the coast, everywhere. We've got to combat that growth. So we have to open more positions, stuff like that. So, but we don't have the luxury of having those 20-year backstep guys that much anymore. So how do we combat that? We have to build a culture of mentorship and try to constantly pass on. Look at and I'm a big Paul Combs nut, and the latest one I love so much. I mean, it was the bucket and him with the salt shaker. You
And
know,
he's adding yep, I saw
yeah,
that.
and it's just, but you got to know when to add the salt, when to add that experience and that knowledge. If you add too much too quick, they can't. It doesn't. It mixes up, and then it's going to taste bad.
Mhm.
Add a little bit as it's going, and maybe one day I can get him on here because I'd love to break down about 15 of those pictures and find out his thought process behind them because everything's such a big learning story with them.
Him and I taught together for On Scene, and just he's another one. Phenomenal human being, just so intelligent. Just love hanging out with him. Just a great individual.
So I'm gonna jump ahead, and I want to talk about this past January because I had a great time. I was teaching with Andy and the guys from the Water Thieves. You were off to the other side, right? Within earshot of us, and let's talk about the difference because I do my training job teaching my recruits and stuff, but it was actually so much of a blast getting away, getting a whole with a whole new group of people, teaching a completely different topic, and just having fun. You were over there, y'all were doing everything under the sun, cutting windows, jumping it. I mean, I was spending more time watching y'all than I was doing what I was doing. But let's talk about being a cadre member at a conference like that and teaching in that aspect, and then having to pull the brakes back and put your chief shirt back on. What kind of transition is that?
So I think the transition isn't honestly too bad for me, only because for my division, I just recently brought Captain Knapp in. I guess it was in the fall of 2025. So we've kind of expanded our training division for the opportunity for growth, just because the organization's growing so much. But it is interesting for me in the fact that between that, even the Fire Officer Academy, so I go there and I'm the cadre member, right? Tardo was in charge. I'm throwing my chief stuff out the window, and I'm just teaching some fun stuff in gear, and I I enjoy it because it brings me back to my roots, for lack of a better term, right? I get to throw my gear on, I get to talk shop and just be another firefighter with a group of individuals from all over the state. And the hope is that they don't see me as how my department sees me, right? Because people love and hate me at my department, right? They love me when I'm there, and then they'll love me even more when I'm gone, right? We have that. I have that persona at Somerville, and at least when I get to interact with people on a level where none of that stuff matters, and it's just about doing what we're supposed to do, focusing on the mission, focusing on the task, and they're just soaking up so much and actually interacting with me as a firefighter, not as Chief Tennyson. That is so special to me because I do have my core group of individuals, back at Somerville that I do feel comfortable doing that with. But a lot of the times I found, unfortunately, that the higher up you go in that food chain is that I can't always joke around and have those kind of conversations because people could potentially tend to take off with what Chief Tennyson said and turn it into something different. And instead it was just firefighter Tennyson talking to another firefighter, talking real stuff about things, right?
Takes away the persona of, the whole thing. The higher you go up, the lonelier it gets because,
It's
with
it's
that.
so true. It's so true. And I mean, I like to say that, our cadre, we're tight. I know they love me. They respect me, and that's great. Um, but it gets lonelier and lonelier the higher up you go, and you just got to be ready for it. You just got to understand that what you're doing is you're trying to do the right thing for the most amount of people, and you just got to be okay with that.
Yeah, but it's like I can relate so much to what you're saying about just when you're at the conferences and stuff because the captain bugles go away, the chief bugles go away. I'm 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 rocking an old pair of 3/4 boots, running around with a chore coat on, running
That's
pumps
right.
and loving life. And you're over there in your gear doing stuff, but it's all about that salt. We're sharing that knowledge, that experience and stuff, and it's nothing about who am I. No, nothing. It's let me teach you what I've learned. Let me
Absolutely.
help you. Let me help you be better. So I was doing some trolling because I am. I'm a Facebook troll. I love to find out as much as I can about people, and you had a quote on there, and I was talking to you when we were pre gaming, and I will 100% add this to one of my programs if you'll allow me to.
Take it. It's
You know,
not. Yeah.
yeah, I
No
mean, because
proprietary.
it hits so hard. I mean, I'll make sure that old Chief Tennyson gets the credit for it at the bottom, but it says I want to get. It says it is factual that you speak the loudest, not through your words, but through your body. We instill humility, and the only time to be loud is through action alone. No egos, just doing the Lord's work for our people. And you were talking about your cadre, your department, talking about how proud it is to be a member of Somerville Fire Department and stuff like that. But that resonates so hard with me because you know teaching at conferences and and you teaching all over the place and taught at FDIC and assisted there and things and it's we are trying, like I was saying earlier, trying to get that mentorship stuff, culture back to what it was 25 years ago, 30 years ago. Empathy. That's what I hear in that. Being empathetic, having humility. And we talked, the biggest word of all of it is grace. As if we are in a teaching role or a mentorship role, we've got to be able to give grace on a daily basis. Somebody gave it to us. We need to turn around and give it back because I promise you, I screwed up royally on a daily basis when I was learning. I still screw up. I still get grace from my boss. I'll probably need it tomorrow. You never know. But, you know, empathy is so big. We have to remember where we come from so we can be empathetic with the people that are going through stuff now. It's like we were talking earlier about you mentoring your officers, dealing with, whenever Tom's having a bad day, things like that, and trying to truly get that personal, you know, compliment to your company officers. They can't do that without empathy and humility. Somebody's got to show them the way through and set the tone on. We remember what it was like whenever we first hit the floor riding the right seat. We understand that mistakes will be made. It's okay. You know, that's whenever I think it's okay to have the hot wash of saying, if I go out and nobody get hurt, I'm not going to say that's my go all on a hot wash. But when they're first learning and letting them make mistakes and learn from the mistakes, And that's where, in that mentor role, a lot of times having leaning on them while they're going through, get in their head, find out what they're thinking. Let them do good. Let them do bad. Just like you were talking about, they can't fix something if they don't never mess up.
Right. Absolutely right. Yeah, it's and it's funny because I know some of the Somerville once they hear this pocket, they're gonna be like Tennyson and Grace. No, because I do have the reputation of
I've
being
seen it. I have seen it firsthand, so I know it's there.
that accountability stuff. But on the same token, it's accountability in a loving way. It's accountability of me putting my foot in your behind because I know you're better. I know you can do
There you go.
better, right? I know you're capable of doing great things. I need you to continue to do great things and not fall into the path that you're going down. So I'm going to hold you accountable and have that candid conversation with you. I'm not putting pen to paper. I'm not firing you, demoting you, or any of that stuff. But I'm letting you know, hey, we got to fix this, right? And to some people, it's not taken that way, right? To some people, that is just being mean, being harsh, right? There's several other ways to be mean and be harsh, all right? I'm simply doing it because I love you enough to tell you I care, because too many times captains and chiefs will turn and look the other way and say, oh, that's just how so and so is, or oh yeah, I've been like that for months, or oh yep, well, they're retiring soon, we're just giving them the gravy train for the next year. We can't have that. If you're not in it, I'm sorry, leave. Go be happy. I want you to be 100% happy. Go do something else, right? But you can't be the captain that is responsible for an entire crew, and you're bringing that entire crew down with you because you're not in it. I don't care how many years you have in the career. If you've taken that oath and you've decided to be that leader, my focus is going to be to help you to be that leader because I need you. You are the absolute backbone of this organization because you have so much impact that I don't have on a daily basis with every firefighter on that floor. I need you to be the captain that you can be, and I'm going to help you out, and I'm going to help you reach those goals. And we're also going to be pushing the needle because some of the problem is like, oh, we already did that goal. We met that goal. Why do we have to keep moving forward? Because stagnancy is moving in the wrong direction. That's why. We have to keep pushing the needle forward.
I like it. I'll be the first one to tell you 5 years ago, I was that guy you were talking about that needed somebody's foot in there, and I needed somebody's foot planted up my butt. I was,
We all do.
I mean, I was stagnant in a bad way. I'll tell anybody that's ever listened to me teach or talk in the last couple of years, the training division saved my career among so many other things. A lot of times we can influence somebody by giving them more purpose. And sometimes those goals are re-sparking that purpose of what we need them for. And a lot of times that purpose can help somebody because if without purpose, we get stagnant. We fall into the trap of, okay, I'm going to come to work every third day or every 4896s or whatever your schedule is. And I'm just going to come in and run my calls because you don't have a purpose anymore. You find those new goals, push them to the envelope. You're not doing it to be mean. You're doing it to give them a purpose, give them a reason. And a lot of times as company officers, I'll be the first one. I was there. I forgot that my true purpose was my people. It took me leaving my role and getting a reset to grab that again and understand the true reason behind it. And I wish it would have happened a lot sooner in my career than what it did, but I'm glad it did happen. And I'll tell anybody there is about it, so that way they don't become who I was.
And that's all part of it, is understanding who you are and where you came from, right? I tell my story too to our recruits and everything just so that they understand. I'm not standing in front of you as some four bugle chief tapping my badge and all this other crap. I'm standing in front of you as a man who has many, many faults, who is going to continue to have many faults and screw up. But together, as long as we trust each other, we're going to get through this.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Now I'm going to ask Chief Tennyson a question. So, in the instructor aspect, you've been doing this a long time, just like I have, and things have changed drastically with the students of the fire service, especially in the last, I would say, especially in the last 5 years. COVID hurt the fire service a lot. I'm a true believer in that. And it hurt us in a couple of different ways. I think it hurt the students that are coming through the fire service now because they lost a lot of social skills, and it hurt us on the instructor side because the way we used to teach doesn't work anymore, because now we have to evolve to what makes these younger people click that didn't have the social, the social growing up and things like that, but that were stuck in front of a laptop. Everything's changing, so we can't be stagnant. So I want to find out, what are your thoughts on how much our students have changed? Because I know what I see. I want to see what you see through your eyes.
That's that's a very interesting question because I will tell you it's very dependent upon the environment that I'm in when I'm teaching. So, recruit environment, you
So
are,
let's just go with that one. We'll
yeah,
go. We'll
recruit
get a fresh.
environment. I have seen the same exact things that you have. It actually came to a point for me where I realized I'm not probably the main voice that they need to hear anymore. My methodology can adapt, right? We done the same thing. We got tablets for everybody. They log in. They do a lot more of the hybrid type learning stuff because to them, sheer boredom and torture is me standing in front of them and teaching them a lesson and having that interaction with them, right? That doesn't do good for them. They need to hit buttons. They need to see screens doing different things, and they that's just how they learn. It's the reality. My kids did the same thing through COVID, and now it's the way of life. It is what it is. So what I found is that as much as I have been open-minded to adapting my methodology, I've also come to understand that it is time for me to not be the face of training for Somerville anymore because granted, I feel like I still have value in the training division, but now my value is leaning more towards mentoring and preparing Captain Knapp to take over and be chief of training. And he's younger, he's way more in tune with technology, he's got so many great ideas, right? He doesn't do things the way that I would expect him to do. However, I have to be okay with taking a step back and either letting it work out better than what I anticipated, or maybe he will kind of run into the same issues I had, and then him and I can talk it out together and work it out together so that we can get him up to speed with what he's doing. But I will tell you what he's done with the training division, and since he's come in September, and I've kind of taken a major step back and started transitioning my focus in another direction in the organization, is that it's hard because they were my babies. They were my programs. I didn't create them, but I evolved all the programs that I've been a part of throughout time and kind of put it out there to Somerville in hopes that it would make us better. And he's taking them and running with it, and he's doing things that I never would have thought to do. And as painful as that is for me to say, I'm so happy that Somerville is just going to continue in such an amazing direction. But it's hard because at some point, as much as we try to change and adapt to that, we may not have that complete connection that they need. And they lean heavily on that because there's a close knit connection between Cap Knapp and those recruits, and I see it. And they love me and respect me, and that's fine. But it's different, and I would never have made that connection with them that he does.
I would have to say that in my experience, one of the biggest things is one we already talked earlier about the social differences. COVID screwed these kids up socially with social interaction and everything else because, like you said, all they have is a screen to look at. But they didn't have the vocation we had. They didn't have the playing ball or playing you know football, baseball, track, all the stuff we done, that team aspect, they didn't get.
Hmm.
They didn't run poles after they missed a pass.
Right.
They didn't understand the whole aspects of it. But but with that, they didn't have the mentors we had. We had the coaches and the teachers and stuff that would jerk a knot in your butt when you needed it and give you a hug when you needed that too. a lot of them never had that. So a lot of times I think that, I'm going to go a little bit off of what, Chief Rhodes was talking about. The company officer is the most important. In operations, I agree 100%. On another aspect for a department, I'm going to say your training cadre is probably one of the strongest, most important, because they are the ones that sets the tone from the day one on what the future is going to evolve for that department. And a lot of times, I'm a firm believer mentorship starts day one. It doesn't start the first day after they graduate. It starts the first day when they hit the academy. But a lot of these kids, that cadre, is the first people that truly cared whether they succeed or not in their, since they've been in school, especially in the high school deal, because they didn't have the ball coach saying you better get a C or higher or you're not playing. I believe, they didn't have a lot of people to push them, to give them that nudge when they needed it. Like you were talking about, I'm going to get in your butt a little bit. A lot of times we need that. We need that push to make us go harder, do more, understand what we're truly there for. These kids didn't have that. So we have to try to navigate those waters of how do we push them and not break them, but still get them to where they can believe that they're capable of so much more than what they think they are.
Yeah,
I know that's a
it's
lot.
difficult for us. Yeah, no, that's a lot to take in. But I guess we've kind of stuck to a lot of the somewhat old school traditions of, hey, we're going to lay these expectations out for you, and we're known for being a different type of academy because we typically have a little bit higher attrition rate than other academies, and that to me, we don't want people to fail our academy at all. But what I do love about our academy, because I've been part of academies as an instructor cadre, that I can give my opinion that somebody just isn't quite that material yet, or maybe they need to go volunteer and come back in a year to our recruit program and refocus on some things. We're not just kicking them to the side. We're actually giving them pointers on, hey, this is how I want you to come back next class and be successful, right? And there's several times where if they're not successful in our program, we will actually offer that. I'll say, hey, I guarantee you a spot in this next class, okay? I want you to come back because I think you have all the potential in the world, but right now something's just not jiving. You're not focusing and doing what I need you to do. I can't have that. I can't deliver you to the 115 firefighters on the floor because there's a whole lot riding on this, right? This is a lot more bigger than you, and it's a lot bigger than me. You got to have that conversation with them, but you also got to be able to build them up at the same time when you're talking to them about that, right? So we stick to the true to traditions. Like, here's the expectation, and the main focus is that our instructors have to uphold that, right? If I'm expecting my recruits to be clean shaven, uniform proper, and everything, I want my cadre better show up, actually looking better than what the recruits look like, because we have to show them that we're not just going to talk to them about an expectation. This is a way of life at Summerville. This is what we do. My PT instructors go rep for rep with them, right? We live the life with them and we suffer alongside them so that they understand that we're not just sitting here yelling at you about it. We're not living the motto that I did my time, I already went through recruit school. No. I get to enjoy going through recruit school every single time with every recruit because that's what we do here at Summerville, right? We are very blessed that I don't get asked questions. If I say this individual isn't Summerville material, all that I get is, hey, all right, great. I wish him the best. Let us know what's going on with the resignation, right? It's not always the case. Some organizations don't give training officers that autonomy, and they say, look, you have 22 people. You better graduate 22 people because we're 30 short on the floor. I don't care what you got to do. They need to pass. And that's a challenge to your instructorship, but is everybody that comes across that gate supposed to be there? It's not always the case. We want everybody to be there. It's the best job in the world, but at what cost?
I like that. Sometimes, and I understand exactly where you're saying, because sometimes the cost can be, okay, we're going to modify your PT schedule. So instead of you doing PT every day because you're physically fit, but you're struggling on the academic side, while the other guys are doing PT, I'm going to keep you and we're going to do some one-on-one study time, things like that.
Right.
But then if you can't go rep for rep with the rest of the class, you don't get study time because those physical aspects are still part of the job as well.
Yep.
So you got to work twice as hard on your physical side on your off time so you can have extra study time one on one with your instructors and stuff. But it's just like you saying, at what cost? So sometimes the cost is extra work on cadre, which any instructor that is a cadre member at an academy, I will vouch for 98.2% of them that will go toe for toe and put tons of extra time investing in people because that is our job. It is our job to prepare and provide for the department. A lot of people, as instructors, don't look at it as we have two types of customers. We have internal and external. Our internal customers are our recruits. We have to provide a service to them. That service is through learning. And then we have our external customers. And it's not Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Our external customers are the guys on the floor that we are sending these people to. They are expecting a certain caliber. Now, you know just as good as I do, that's a struggle a lot of times because a lot of times the guys on the floor forget what it's like being the first day off. After you pass out of the fence, they're wanting 10-year guys that's got 10 minutes on the job. So I mean, they've got to have a little bit of give and take on that. But sometimes we can invest a little more and get a product for the department that can be salvageable, and sometimes there's not.
Yep, absolutely. Our cadre is the same way. I can't go to the training site on a weekend and a recruit's not being taught by somebody in our cadre or even a member from the floor, a crew from the floor, nights, weekends, it does not matter. And that's when I'm confident in saying, look, this firefighter's not Somerville material because we have given literally everything we can pour into this individual. And either they're not getting it or they have selected that this isn't for them, and that's okay too. But we feel great on our end about the fact that we have poured all we can into them.
Yeah.
It's not an option. We have an in-house mentor program with past recruit graduates. They get partnered up with current recruits because they know the game. They know what's going to happen, and they can actually help guide them through the process, right?
Exactly.
So we have that mentorship program built in with instructors and prior graduates to be able to assist them to be successful.
And I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and that is by far, you can start being a mentor right after you graduate because guess what? You already know the routine of the recruit academy. So why can't you pass some knowledge on to somebody else? You might not know everything about what goes on the floor, but you can pass information on to that person that's just starting out. You can give those little tips and tricks and stuff. And
I think
it goes
that's
back.
I think that's the secret to a successful organization anyway, is the quicker you can get these individuals involved in whatever their niche is, whether it's helping out with IT and creating sims, whether it's helping out with physical fitness training, right? Every recruit class, I've got at least 5 studs in that program that, hey, guess what you're going to do next recruit class? We're bringing you in and you're going to start shadowing for PT instructor, okay? We're going to pay you overtime. We're going to let you shadow and we're going to build you and mold you. Hey, you were really good at truck work. Guess what? Yeah, you don't have the floor street credit, but you've got great credit on how to teach the foundation and the basics to another recruit. Okay, so you're going to come in and you're going to start shadowing, and they're not going to be a lead instructor the very next class, but they're going to start shadowing, and we're going to get them involved in the department to making it better and giving that buy-in. Because if you don't do that, if you just have the attitude that, oh, you're too new, you don't have anything to offer the department, come talk to me in 5 years, man, you are destined to not have a great organization. I'm sorry, there's no way about it.
Yeah, because what can that guy bring? Because I come from a farming background, and how many guys grew up on a farm that are dumb country strong
Right,
to start off with? We don't have a physique, but we can sling hay bales all day long.
right,
But in the same aspect, how many things have we had to tear apart and working on machinery and everything else that might make us a little better at extrication
right.
or man versus machine stuff? And I mean, I've had a couple calls, man versus combine, man versus corn picker, things like that. And that's where that background of tearing that equipment apart years ago, working on the farm, helped that process. You never know what somebody's background is if you don't take the time to learn what it is.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
I'm I'm not your PT guy. I'll be the first one to tell you. Uh,
I'm learning I'm not anymore either. I don't keep up as well anymore. It might be time for me to turn my OD Green PT instructor shirt in.
Father Time's catching up on me. I got to do something with it. So, the perfect instructor, if you could build one.
Ooh. A set person, or are you looking for qualities and characteristics?
Qualities and characteristics. If you could build a, and the reason I'm asking this is the people that are listening, it gives us a blueprint on what we need to strive for, what a chief is looking for in their training people.
Well, first and foremost, they have to want to pass knowledge on and at the same time be willing to gain knowledge. Uh, you should be a subject matter expert, but not always the smartest person in the room. Okay? You have to, I want that instructor to keep an open mind to things. Okay? Allow conversation, allow those questions to be asked. Okay? I just had the conversation with our recruits today is that, gone are the days where we say we hire you from the neck down. We need you to be vocal. We need you to ask questions. We need you to want to know why and how things are happening, because it also keeps us on our toes, because the automatic rebuttal was shut up, kid, because I said so back in the day. And that really allowed a lot of people to hide behind an authority, right? An authoritarian approach. And in reality, maybe they didn't know, and they could have taken the opportunity to learn something with that firefighter. So for us is don't pretend to be something you're not. That's one of my hugest things. So the perfect instructor doesn't try to baffle them with any BS, because it's known that they are going to be working alongside you on that floor in 17 to 23 weeks. So if you're trying to portray yourself as somebody that you're not, they're going to learn real quick who the real you is once they hit the floor. So I want somebody that's completely honest and transparent with who they are as an instructor, have an open mindset, try to do the right thing on a daily basis, show up meeting and exceeding the standard that you expect from your firefighters. Don't ask them to do anything that you're not willing to do. And what I mean by that is, don't ask them to do push-ups because at one point in time, 25 years ago, you could do push-ups. You are to only ask them what you are physically capable of doing now with them. Because sometimes that may be the breaking point, and you may have to say, hey, snap out of it. You're good. We're going to do these together. But if you can't physically do that and you're just going to hunch over them and belittle them, you're not an instructor at that point. You're a prison guard. So the perfect instructor needs to be able to lead by example and physically do what every single thing that they are asking that student to do. They need to have patience and humility. Those are two big things. That pretty much sums it up.
I like it. I mean, that's a recipe. One thing that you said that made me think about some stuff was you talking because I said so. Heard that a lot. The other and another one I heard a lot was and I'll go different on them. Is you always heard God give you two ears and one mouth. As instructors, I think we need to remember that too. A lot of times we need to open our ears and close our mouth, because one thing I will say, the younger generation that is coming, they're not scared to tell you how they learn and what makes them tick. That's when you said, from the neck down, that neck up, a lot of times these younger kids will tell you how they learn. They're they're not they're not ashamed to say I'm a hands-on person, or I'm a visual learner, or I'm an auditory learner. They'll let you know what you need to do, how you need to tweak stuff to help be successful for them.
Mm-hmm.
And you were talking about, I'll say one blast from the past, and it irks me. God, I'm not gonna lie, it chaps my ass. Whenever you hear an instructor tell somebody when they're struggling, you need to figure it out because I've got my certs.
Yeah.
That chaps me, because they always say, I got my certs, it's not my problem. No, it is your problem. because it is your job to help them get their certs. Just like we said earlier, this isn't for everybody. Everybody's not going to be successful, but also like we were talking about, it is our job to do everything possible to help them get that certification. If they don't get it, it's because they made their mind up. No, I'm not doing it, or I'm not going to push anymore, or whatever. But we got to be able to lay our head down every night and say, I've done everything possible to help this person be successful. Not saying, well, they just didn't want it. I got mine and it ain't my problem. No, it is. I lose sleep over this stuff sometimes. And I think that's another thing that makes somebody the right fit for, because you said somebody just wanting to make a difference. Somebody that, I will say that instructors are some of the only people that will lose sleep over kids that are not theirs. Because building the relationships with these kids and stuff, we worry about them like they're our own by the time you get through with 17, 18, 30 weeks. Our academies are sometimes 30 weeks long. And they're like your kids by the time it's over with. And I think it's important. I think it's important for the instructors to make it feel like they're kids. None of them ever going to call me dad, but I mean, I've had a few of them call me Uncle Wayne a couple of times. I mean, I'm going to be that loving uncle that'll put my foot in your butt when you need it and turn around and hug you when you need that too. But I think it's important because we've got to show them we care, because a lot of them haven't had a lot of that care, and a lot of them don't know how to react to it when they get it.
Oh yeah, I've encountered that a lot more in the recent years of
Yeah, because they haven't had those mental
that initial reaction of shutting down when someone gets loud and someone's talking to them and telling them they need to move with a purpose and change that gear a little bit, that you got one speed and that's slow, I need you to speed this up because I need this done yesterday and all that. But then it's so crazy to see that the ones that actually kind of work through that shutdown, and then they learn that, hey, that is direct criticism in life and death situations, and split second decision making, where you need to be able to lock that stuff in, don't shut down, make the decision and get the outcome. And as you see them get those successful outcomes, they actually realize that they kind of needed that. They needed that their entire lives, and they're so thankful at the end for just being shown that side of love, of, hey, I love you enough to let you know you can do better.
Yeah.
I'm going to push you past any perceivable limits, and I need you to take this journey with me because it's so important that you do. Right?
I love it. I do. It's something that, because a lot of times to start off with, those recruits, they can't stand us to start off with, and then by the time of graduation, they don't want to leave.
That's right.
I love it. Well, Chief, we have had a great conversation on a bunch of different topics, but I'm going to give you the chalkboard and let you put your message on there. Anything you want to tell the world, PG, go for it.
I think my heart's kind of pulling me a direction that what I want to leave with anybody that listens to this podcast with, especially speaking to the hearts of some of our officers, is sometimes it's very easy to get defeated. Sometimes it feels like that we are fighting a battle that we just can't win, right? That we keep getting pushed back in different directions, or maybe you're trying to have autonomy and make decisions and it keeps getting pushed back in your face. Don't give up. We can't give up. If making things better and making your organization better was easy, they wouldn't need people like us to fight. So we just need to keep fighting the good fight and doing what we're doing to make things better. It doesn't always mean people are going to like it. Better doesn't always mean that it's the popular opinion. But without people like us in those organizations to keep fighting, nothing's going to get better. That's all I got.
That's plenty. And that is plenty. You are 100% right. After a while, that sore spot will grow a callus. It'll be okay.
Right.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening up tonight. If you've got anybody you want to see come on the chalkboard, send me a message. Send me a DM, um, send me an email. We'll get them on. Let them tell their story. Let them leave their message. It doesn't have to be some kind of rock star, big name person. You know, everybody's got a message. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got something that people can learn from. That's what the chalkboard's for. Till next time, stay safe, keep learning, and we'll see you the next time somebody steps up to the chalkboard.